All right. Hey, welcome everyone. This is the Shooting Game Weekly, episode 37. We're back. Last week I was lazy, didn't do an episode, but we're back. We got a double feature. That is going to be on Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun. And oh my God, I hear myself. Okay, okay, I added the stream up. Okay, forget that. Anyway, yeah, so a double feature. And Ikaruga Radiant Silvergun. Actually, pretty good timing here because this game, Ikaruga recently got greenlit on Steam, so that's actually going to be available on Steam. I believe it's confirmed available, so pretty good timing. But yeah, so we're taking a look at both of these games. One CC is for both games. Scoring not the greatest scoring, but there's still scoring to be had to be talked about. And so this week, actually, going to be joined by tokyobassist. He's going to be our expert on these games for the most
Hello.
part. Yeah, hey Tokyo, how's it going? Can I just call you Tokyo?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and then also joined by Softdrink.
Hey
Uh,
guys,
yeah, welcome, welcome.
yeah, it's a
And
pleasure to be back on.
yeah, you were on the Einhander episode
Yeah,
a while back.
and Ultinex as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah. So and
Um,
then I'm gonna be on Ibarra again. So that
yep,
should be
yep,
exciting.
yep. So we got Ibarra coming up next week. So I got you guys to talk about these games. So yeah, Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun. I guess Ikaruga. It was originally released in arcades in 2001 on the Sega Naomi hardware, and then it was released on the Dreamcast. Actually, used the same hardware on the Dreamcast, and then eventually released an Xbox Live Arcade in 2008. It's a sequel, spiritual sequel to Radiant Silvergun. However, we will be covering it. We'll be covering Ikaruga first here, and Ikaruga was this game that kind of rejuvenated shooting games, but for kind of different reasons. I guess we'll kind of get into that, but it rejuvenated the games, but it got people to notice shooting games again, and so we actually have a couple kind of some stories about that, and soft drink. You want to kind of talk about like kind of what Ikaruga meant to you, I guess,
Oh
because
yeah, sure.
I know you mentioned it kind of got you into shooting games
It did, I
pretty
wouldn't say
much.
it got me into shooting games,
Okay.
but because I've always been interested in them.
Mm.
But it was kind of the first game that I started taking seriously. It was the first game where I would go and watch replays and I would read about
Okay, yeah,
strategy.
that's a big
And
difference when it comes to shooting games too.
yeah, it's a big step,
Yeah.
and this was way before I was on shmups. It's actually junior year of high school was when I got the Xbox port, and I was really psyched about that. And I
Mm.
never really got good at the game overall, but I enjoyed credit feeding through it and trying to learn the stages and trying to practice things. And I really got fixated on the last level.
Mm.
And so I would just play the last level between doing homework or practicing for tests or studying for finals or whatever.
Mm.
Um, and eventually it got to the point where I was 11th in the world for a little while on hard prototype mode for that last stage. So that was kind of exciting, and that
Oh
was my
wow.
first big success with a shooting game, and it was really an interesting experience because I wasn't planning to get to that level. It just kind of happened, and then once it did, I was like, wow, I actually can do that.
So
And so I think
were you
I, I,
like gradually like going up the leaderboards as you were playing, or did you like suddenly
well, it
like
wasn't. I wasn't even playing online
right, okay.
until very shortly before I did that. And then when I got that score, it was like, wow, like that was I just did that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things like maybe I am pretty decent at these games. And so
Mm.
and then once I got into college a couple of years later, I started getting much more interested in them, and that was when I started playing Diojo, and that was what really got me back into it. And that's when I joined the forum and when I
Right.
had a much greater interest in the genre. But Ikaruga definitely was a big kind of jumping off point for me. So
Yeah, that's it's funny how you mentioned kind of the leaderboard things. It's funny because having that leaderboard inspired you, basically.
exactly.
Gave you an idea like hey, like I, you know it's a solo, I mean, hobby or genre or whatever, but at the same time you can compete with other people's scores. So just the
Yeah,
fact that you could compare yourself and get the kind of inspiration to play it like more or actually look into the shooting games more. I think that's a really kind of notable thing about shmups too, is
yeah,
why a
definitely.
lot of people play.
Well, one of the ways that I look at it is like with fighting games, it's you against one other person.
Yeah.
Um, but with a shooting game, until you've beaten the game or until you've beaten a stage, it's you against the developers. But once you've gotten to that point, it's you against every other person who has ever played the game.
Yeah.
Um, and in a way, that's kind of a really inspiring thought. So yeah, I mean, I think
It's
that
like,
the
yeah, it's
the
like you're
leaderboard was something that was really kind of essential to me for that, and so
right. And I
it was
mean,
nice to be able to then later join a community which keeps its own leaderboards, even though there's no online system for that that's integrated into the game. So
yeah, that's really cool. I mean, leaderboards are probably one of my favorite things about the shmups these days, having that ability. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Does that kind of wrap up your story? Kind of there.
yeah, that's that's
Okay.
that's all I got. Sorry.
Tokyo bassist. How about you? Like, what is this? What does Ikaruga mean to you? How did you first kind of get into it?
Well,
If you
I've
have a
always
story.
been like, yeah, I've always been like a fan of Treasure's games, especially even back before they became Treasure, with Contras and the Gradiuses and whatnot. And eventually, I heard about Ikaruga. So and at the time I was working at GameStop, so I bought it. And to be honest with you, I absolutely hated the game when I first played it. And I can tell you why now that I'm older, is because I never played a bullet hell up until that point. And uh and
Mm,
it literally overwhelmed me. Like it got to the point where I just literally got frustrated. I couldn't even get past the first level, and I kind of disregarded it. Well, it
right.
wasn't until the Xbox Live release, in 2008 or whatnot, that I actually sat down and I was like, I'm gonna give this game a second chance. And
Mm, mm.
it was way better. Like I definitely saw why people liked it and why it's a great game. And
Was it
yeah, I
just
don't.
from playing it, thus just more that you came to that realization, you think, or
I think
was it
it had a
something
lot to
else?
I think it had a lot to do also with the fact that I was so much more used to reflex-based shooters back then because Gradius isn't so much more memorization as it is more you can actually just react to stuff that you see on screen.
Mm,
Well, with Ikaruga, I felt like there's like a big element of memorization in it,
mm.
and I just wasn't accommodated with that, especially with the whole switching polarities mechanic. So it really threw me off big time, and I really didn't take a liking to it until much later in my life.
Mm. It's interesting because yeah, both of you kind of got back into it because of the Xbox release. It's just like it came out and it reminded people, yeah, like this was a game. IGN of course has the famous quote on on the
The
GameCube box,
frothing
like,
demand.
what is it like this?
Our frothing demand for this game
Oh
increases.
yeah. And I think they like kept that quote for I think the Xbox campaign or something like that. But but yeah, I mean that quote. I mean, it's just one of these games, and I guess that will kind of lead into it, kind of like just our discussion about um, why this game became popular. But it's weird because it's not a traditional shooting game. A lot of people kind of refer to it as a puzzle game with some of the elements in the stages present kind of things where you need to kind of figure out what to do before you can actually proceed. And we'll see kind of what that's like in the replay. So, I mean, what was it that puzzle element which brought you back to it, like as when you played and you figured it out and you want and like kind of kept you going for you guys?
I mean, I've been a fan of puzzle games, but I wouldn't necessarily say like that was probably like the driving force of why I like came back to shmups in a sense. Because I've never actually fallen out of shmups. Actually, like I've always kept
Okay,
up with them, but
sure.
yeah, like that game was polarizing. That's mainly what it was for me. It was just the difficulty. The difficulty really got to me.
Mm,
Um, my take on it is I think that the reason that it's kind of controversial among fans of shooting games is that there's kind of exactly one way to play Ikaruga correctly, and there's not really any room to deviate from that. And so the entire game becomes about execution. And a lot of shooting games at the very highest levels of play, you have something similar where you have one route that you're trying to stick to, and you're trying to pattern out and develop as best you can. But I mean, the difference is that if you miss one enemy in Doronpachi, you might be able to continue your chain. You might be able to make that into the best run you've ever had. If you miss one enemy in Ikaruga, you are probably going to have an incredibly shitty score for that stage compared to everything else. And the other thing that I noticed is that it's often very obvious in the game what you're supposed to do to continue the chain. And the route that you're supposed to take is kind of clearly drawn out for you by the developers and by the game, which on the one hand is a great example of excellent game design because it's so difficult to correctly execute on that. But on the other, it kind of takes away the element of discovery and analysis and developing your own pattern, which is part of my personal fascination with shooting games.
So you think like part of the reason it became popular is because it kind of introduced this feeling of, practicing a shooting game.
I wouldn't say that. I think the reason it became popular with the general audience, the people outside of kind of the shooting game crowd, so to speak, is that it's a shooting game which doesn't really look or feel like a shooting game, and so to the outside it's kind of like, oh, this game has it's 3D graphics, but it's a 2D game, and they're really pretty 3D graphics, and it's real as brown, and everybody likes Buddhist storylines and vague religious references, and it's just Eastern enough that people in the West are able to appreciate it. That's kind of my take on it. That said, I do like the story, and I do like the some of the symbolism and some of the quotes, the whole "I'm not regret, I will not die until I've achieved something, even if the ideal is high, I will never give in, therefore I never die with regrets." I think there's some very powerful ideas behind that, and that's part of what people glommed onto. But I think that most of the hype was initially to do with the success of Radiant Silvergun, which itself, was very well regarded in the West because of the association with treasure. And so it's this kind of interesting set of things where you have a game which is relatively good and has relatively interesting concepts, but people are mostly interested in it for what came before, which was also relatively good and had relatively interesting concepts, but people were mostly interested about it because of what came before. So
it's very interesting too to see how much more receptive people were to Ikaruga compared to Radiant Silvergun. And I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but the difficulty, Radiant Silvergun's conveyance is very weird. Like, they have a lot of mechanics and stuff going on in it, and while it's good for like a seasoned shmup player, it's very alienating for people that are just trying to pick up a shmup, if that makes sense. And that's where I think Ikaruga succeeded. It simplified a lot of the mechanics and the gimmick of the game. And that's what attracted a lot of people too, like the whole bullet absorbing thing too was very interesting for its time. Well, I think that's another thing that made it stand out.
Which is interesting because a polarity mechanic like that has been done before. It was done much earlier in I'm going to horribly butcher the pronunciation. I believe Daimahu or Dimahu actually had something very similar where if you were the same polarity as bullets that hit you, you either wouldn't take damage or wouldn't die, but you'd lose some shot power or something like that.
That sounds right.
And then later in a platforming game, I believe, Silhouette Mirage.
Which is a treasure game as well.
Which is a treasure game. That was another game which had a similar kind of mechanic. So. But it was really kind of pushed to the extreme with Ikaruga because the game itself is so minimalist, which I think was part of the appeal to a lot of people. So,
and it tripped people out too, I think, because most shmups you try to avoid bullets. In this game, you want to go head first into them.
Yeah, there's definitely some counterintuitive elements to the play here. So,
you think part of it was just like people played it and like when they figured out the very simple mechanic, like it just clicked right away and they just wanted to keep playing?
Maybe.
Like, 'Cause I
don't
mean, I don't know. It is really simple, and it is pretty cool. Like initially, just to kind of be like, oh, it's like it works like this, and or whatever. And then it's
But
like
then you
you
start having to
release the bullets, and then badass explosions and all this. So
then you
know.
also have like the whole left brain, right brain thing going on. So you're just like, like just kind of freaking out a little bit too. It's pretty cool.
all right, so yeah, that's kind of the discussion there. It's pretty interesting. Like, it seems like the pieces fell into place for Ikaruga. It being a treasure game, things that came before it, and it kind of just fell into place. For shmups, and I mean, it kind of seems like it is this shmup that kind of was like the last bastion of like popularity for shmups in the general public. I mean, even still, when you have shmups that are being reviewed, like Ikai Katana on the Xbox 360 and
Yeah, the
stuff like
reviewers
that,
always name drop Ikaruga.
it's
Yeah.
always it's always Ikaruga. It's like it's like remember Ikaruga? This is like that, and it's just
I
like
mean,
it's people latch onto it
yeah.
for one reason or another. It's kind of a mystery. I still don't get it, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those games that kind of stuck in people's minds. So. All right, so we've talked kind of a bit about Ikaruga's kind of notoriety here. So why don't we just briefly we talk about the mechanics? We can get into this. Let's see
Right.
the super basically Ikaruga super play basically. Well, it's got pretty good scoring. We'll get into that. But
Yeah.
we mentioned the polarity mechanic, of course. You guys just want to go over that just game
Yeah,
mechanics
sure.
again real quick, and we'll get into this replay.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah. Do you want to go or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The original arcade version is actually a 2-button game. You shoot with one button and you change polarity with the other. If you tap the shot button, you release a single shot from the center of your ship, which is really useful if you need to make a very precise shot to hit only one enemy or only a specific area of a target. If you hold it down, you rapidly fire 2 streams that are about the same width as your ship. Then if you tap both buttons simultaneously, you will release your accumulated energy gained by absorbing bullets. And when you change polarity, you can absorb bullets of the same color your ship currently is. So when you're white, you absorb white bullets. When you're black, you absorb black bullets.
Okay, and then how about the chaining then?
Yeah.
I guess
Oh,
you
the
go right into
chaining?
that.
Oh, the chaining is interesting because how it works is that if you kill 3 enemies of the same color, you're awarded a chain. But you can switch between the colors and keep building chains as long as you kill enemies in sets of 3.
Right.
And you don't
Does
need
that
to be
make
the same color as the enemies you're killing or anything like that.
Mhm.
The other thing is that the chaining system is fundamental to scoring because the first chain that you make is worth only 100 points, but then it doubles for every consecutive chain up to the 8th, at which point you reach the max chain value, which is 25,600 points. And every chain after that is 25,600. So what that means is that if you die when you have a max chain built up, say in the middle of the stage, it's relatively quick to build it back up, but you're still going to lose out on about 500k between the enemies that you're killing and the fact that you died and all that kind of stuff during the recovery.
So theoretically, if you knew what you were doing, you could get that chain back up pretty quick and not have a huge point loss.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of getting it.
But it's still a relatively significant thing if you drop your chain, definitely. So it will kill your score for a stage if you're really going for it at a high level of play. So.
Right.
I think it might be worth mentioning too the difficulty level differences.
Okay. Yeah, because we will be watching a actually hard difficulty replay, and yeah. So go ahead.
Cause like on easy mode, on the easy difficulty, none of the ships, no matter whether you shoot the same corresponding color or not, they don't release bullets back at you. On normal, they only launch out bullets if you destroy enemies of the same attribute. But on hard mode, everybody launches it regardless of whether you're the same polarity or not.
It is, yeah, it's a pretty big difference. So you're just getting a lot more energy than I'd imagine in hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also it makes it a lot more difficult because you have to be paying attention to whether bullets that are flying at you are the same color or opposite color, and since there's now so many more bullets from everything that you kill, it's quite a bit more difficult. Plus,
Yeah.
many of the patterns on hard are ramped up a little bit, so they'll be traveling faster or there'll be more shots on the screen. Especially the last boss, Tagari, if you want to milk his final attack for points, which you have to do if you really want a great score, it becomes incredibly difficult to do on hard difficulty because it changes slightly over twice a second, I believe. And we'll get into that once we get to that point. But yeah, the game difficulty, in addition to the suicide bullets, also ramps up somewhat. But one thing that's interesting to note about Ikaruga is that there's no rank whatsoever. All patterns will be exactly the same every single time you play the game, provided that you do the same thing every single time. So the only exception to that is that a couple bosses will have more fierce attacks the longer that you take to kill them. So
It is a very interesting game in that respect, that the difficulty levels actually kind of they actually serve their own set of challenges, you know, because obviously on easier difficulties you won't be able to utilize the homing attack as much, so you'd have to be a bit more conservative about it. It presents a different set of challenges, so there's something for everybody, which is interesting.
one other kind of fundamental difference from a lot of shooting games is that there's no bomb functionality whatsoever. There's
Yeah.
the the only thing that you have that's comparable to a bomb is the energy release, the homing lasers, but they don't necessarily clear the screen, and they will cause enemies to fire back at you depending on the difficulty. And in hard mode, everything will shoot right back at where you were, and so it's very easy for people who are unfamiliar with the game to think, oh, I have full energy, I can just release that when I'm in a sticky spot. No, it will probably end up killing you. And I think that's another thing that people who play shmups kind of find disconcerting, is that it's not really a reflex-based thing. Like if you get fucked, you're fucked. But it's
A lot of playing.
you
careful
can't
playing.
panic bomb. Yeah, yeah. It's a very methodical game in a lot of senses. You really need to have a route planned, and you need to be able to execute it. And in that sense, it's great practice for a lot of other shooting games. But like I said before, there's exactly one way to play it, quote unquote, correctly. So.
And once you can do that, you are an ultimate badass. Right.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Because like if it was like I just imagine like if this was your like first shmup that you really got into and you finally like are putting together those chains, like you'd be like, man, I'm the best or something. Anyway. All right, well that pretty much covers the mechanics, right? Basically we got the preface in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well let's get started with the replay since we did have quite a lengthy discussion. All right, awesome. So this is Ikaruga 1cc on the hard difficulty. Let's see, who's the player of this one?
I have no
do you
idea.
know? It doesn't. I don't think it's said anywhere. But
Yeah, it's some person named MrCid uploaded it.
yeah, well, it might have been him who played, but in any case, maybe we'll figure out in the ranking screen or something. So
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
all right.
we never
ahead.
mentioned Dot Eater mode.
I mean, it's not really a mode, but basically, if you
method of
play the
play.
game without firing, since fundamentally you can absorb all the shots that are coming at you, so it's possible to go through the whole game without ever firing a shot and take. You don't have to kill anything, so you can actually sit there and absorb everything that comes your way, and doing so gets you a special award at the end of the stage called Dot Eater. Of course, the scores you get won't be nearly comparable, but it's a different kind of accomplishment, and so there's some leaderboards that were maintained online a long time ago, specifically about Dot Eater. So I don't know if that was. I don't know how big that is anymore, but I know that it used to be something that people would compete on. So, but yeah, let's get started here.
Okay, cool. All right, we shall get into it. All right. I shall do a countdown. It'll be 3, 2, 1, click, and let's go. All right. 3, 2, 1, click. I like how he puts the number like sign by his score. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's interesting. So one thing that's common to all of the stages in Ikaruga is that they have an opening segment which is specifically designed so that the player can build up to max chain and get some initial points before starting the bulk of the stage. And so here you see that he's already at 400k and 22 chains just after the first few seconds of the stage.
It's also worth noting that certain enemy formations won't show up if you don't destroy the previous formations in a certain allotted time. So
Yeah.
that is crucial to your chaining and scoring. So
Nothing like that's come up yet, though. No, that's not true. There were the 2 sets of bonus enemies back there, which I missed out on. So here, if you kill those guys quickly enough, these sets come. And then here, this section, if you kill everything rapidly, you can get 3 sets of bonus enemies, like this.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So like
Oh,
you
he
be
does-
playing it, and then like you get better, and then like the more enemies come, and you're like, all right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun to see.
Yeah, I can't do this part. I've been practicing that for a while. That's crucial though for scoring. You definitely need to have that part down.
So yeah, it's like you're really particular with like all of your shooting. Like you're making sure you want to hit exactly what you want to hit. So in that way, there is a lot of kind of skill in execution that goes into it.
Yeah, it's definitely a very execution-heavy game. But this end section here is really kind of where the skill comes into play, because it's possible to get quite a lot of extra chains there, provided that you kill the enemies in the rest of the stage quickly enough. You can get up to, I think, around 132, 134 chains by that point, if you're really maximizing everything. So, but it's very difficult to do, and most of those chains at that ending section are very difficult to execute properly. Simply because of the way that the enemies are moving onto the screen. So here he's point blanking the shield so that he can absorb and then release it during this section. Possible. 10k for every second.
Oh, you're kind out. Softdrink. Can you say that again? Uh-oh. All right, Tokyo,
Austin?
you take over.
Yeah, right on.
Oh shit! Did I drop out again?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah,
You're
just
back.
for a second. Yeah.
Well, you cut off at when you said 10k, I think.
I've seen 74 seconds. Oh, you get 10k per second left on the boss timer when you kill it, and so the quicker you kill it, the more points you end up with at the end of the stage, and that's that boss destroy bonus that you see on that ending screen. So in this
Okay.
case, you got, I think, 720k. I've seen 74 seconds,
Okay.
which is 740k, but around he is.
Oh, he got out again.
Yep.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
It's all right. We'll roll with it.
Yeah.
Oh crap! Did I cut out again?
Now right
Yeah,
here, he's
okay,
gonna
you're
go
back.
for a lot more. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, go. Just go for it though, Tokyo. For now.
Yeah.
Okay. Now right here, he's just gonna be scoring. Like he's just basically gonna be milking. All right. Now right here, during this part, you have to really sit there and pay attention, because you can't notice, but he's actually sitting in between those spots where the shots are coming out. So like that's how he is actually avoiding the red bullets and whatnot, and the white ones at the same time during
Yeah.
that spot.
Yeah,
It's just really hard to notice.
Yeah, he got right in between there barely.
Yeah, it's pixel perfect.
But the hitbox is pretty small on the ship, though, is it not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's actually kind of tricky though, because there's times when you'll end up blowing up, but it's something that comes with time. Obviously, the more you play it, you'll get used to it. But it does take a little bit of time to get used to it, compared to like say like Dodonpachi or something like that.
So this is pretty much like the first hurdle of the game, right?
Yeah, this is kind of the part where the game's like, okay, no more fucking around.
Yeah. I know when I played it, I remember this part because I died and I didn't play it much more.
And it's interesting because in co-op play, especially, you'll notice there's a drastic difference in how you approach certain strategies. You end up tending not to shoot more when you play with double play or whatnot. So you got to readjust a lot in this game based on what difficulty you're playing, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I really wanted to. I was thinking of including the like crazy double play replays.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
something to see.
They're out there. Basically, like you got people like girl and boyfriend doing a 1cc or whatever. There's a video like that or something. There's a
Oh, I thought you
there's
meant
one-
the one where it's one
there's
guy
one-
doing a dual
yeah. There's
play.
one where one guy is doing both players. But I've seen those both. I think one of them was like a guy and his girlfriend playing. But like
Okay, now during this-
it really works out for co-op though.
Okay,
kinda
during
that
this
kinda
part,
game.
you can actually get some early damage on the boss before he closes the shutters.
But this is one of the differences between the different versions of the game. In the Xbox version, you can do that, but in the original arcade version, the GameCube port, and the Dreamcast port, you can't. So that's something they changed when they made the Xbox version.
Now that is interesting because I was wondering why there's times where I'm like, okay, I can do this, and then other times I just end up dying because I play on the GameCube port. So yeah, that's interesting that you point that out.
Yeah, it doesn't do any damage in the original versions. So some of the other differences, they removed all of the slowdown throughout the game, mostly because the processing power on the Xbox is so much better that
yeah.
it doesn't have the issue. But that ends up changing a lot of timings. And so if you're playing, you're used to the GameCube version, you try switching to the Xbox version, it's very difficult to do. So, by the way, this opening section of Stage 3 is incredibly fun once you learn the hang of it, but it's quite difficult to do at first. So
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the puzzle element kind of comes into play, as we notice. Like, this is one of the more puzzly parts of Ikaruga.
yeah, definitely. Figuring out how to make it through this is definitely not straightforward. So
It's definitely where beginners will die the first time.
yeah, in fact, all of Stage 3 is like that. It's very much kind of a wall. The boss in particular takes quite a bit of practice.
Oh, absolutely. It's very reminiscent of the speed stages from the Gradius series, too.
Like the wall, just kind of the walls kind of dictating where you go. Sweet.
Yeah.
So you only get that max, or never mind. Never mind. Looks like he just gets the max team bonus every single time he completes a set.
Yeah.
This is a cool section.
Yeah, that takes a little bit of time to memorize.
I think that's kind of the appealing thing about it is like once you have the chains down, like the
Okay, there we go.
presentation of what you're doing actually looks just awesome. Like it looks
Yeah,
like,
it looks almost choreographed.
yeah, it looks like like a choreographed dance or something. 'Cause, yeah, that's badass.
Yeah, that was a butt cheek clencher right there.
Oh,
There we go. First
Here we go.
loss.
Hey. We got deaths. That's what I like to see.
Nice.
Now this mini boss right here, you have to. It takes a second for most people to process, but basically think of it like it's a giant ring that's going around in a circle. That's what really screws people up, as well as the fact that there's kind of like environmental hazards. As you see, he's like actually dodging the walls in between all this, so it's just a lot to focus on. I'd say the best tip to give right there is just to stay focused on your ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is you actually chain through that mid boss. So if you want to full chain the whole stage, you have to kill, you know,
all the parts,
the 3 white parts and then the 3 black parts in order or whatever. And that's one of the other differences between this and the original version of the game. In the GameCube and Dreamcast versions of the game, the mid boss actually rotated the opposite direction, and I think the environmental hazards were flipped as well. So when coming between the two versions of the game, it's a pretty significant difference. So
perhaps it might have been just Treasure throwing a curveball for people that's played this so much.
Yeah, maybe. And they said that they're going to be basing the Steam release on the 360 version. So it sounds like they've kind of decided that the 360 version is now the definitive release of the game. Which is interesting. So I definitely prefer the feel and the timing of the DC and GC version, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Closer to the arcade, I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely closer to the arcade. So. Oh, stage 4. Yeah. The opening section here. Once the two rows here start coming in opposite directions, yeah, it's very difficult to chain through this correctly. So then you get bonus enemies if you do it the right way like that. And then stage 4 itself, the Flower of Death.
It can be very demoralizing in this game at points to see that you aren't even actually starting the level yet, and you died, you know, because the text doesn't come up yet, and you're just like, oh, well, there goes all my lives.
So this stage, this part of this stage is probably the single biggest difficulty spike of almost any shooting game that I've ever played.
Yeah,
it's a really sudden jump.
Yeah, this looks like a headache.
Once you get used to it, there's definitely a rhythm to it, and it's very satisfying when you do it correctly. Just last night, actually, I was playing this to kind of brush up on it before coming on here, and I was able to make it through this whole first rotation cycle without dying, and I got 40 chains in the process, and I'm just like, oh wow, I actually just did that. Felt like such a badass, but yeah. It's kind of
really
like I
keeps
said,
you on your toes, huh?
Yeah. When you're moving, you know, like up and left, you're always going to be black, and down and right, you're always white, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the rhythm is, but it's definitely kind of a coordination you have to make.
Yeah, the soundtrack, it's kind of got this epic feeling, but I feel like it really works out well because the gameplay is kind of epic as well. Because it's like you got this core and it's just shooting everything on the screen. You got enemies going around and you're going around it.
Actually,
Hiroshi gives us a really good impression.
Like Hiroshi Uchi, he actually was the one that composed the soundtrack for this, and usually he's like the lead, the designer for most of these games. He also did Radiant Silvergun. He also worked recently on Strania, from what I'm aware of. He helped contribute with the level designs on that. So you see a lot of the same influences of that guy's work, in all his games.
Yeah. Wow.
It should be noted that chaining here is really less than optimal. It's possible to get, I think, like 150 by this point in the stage, and by the end of the stage, you can have 225 to 230. But it's easily the hardest stage in the whole game to chain fully. So I'm not particularly surprised to see that that didn't quite happen here.
I see.
So, if at the very highest levels of play, you chain the inside and outside rings of that section.
Yeah, someone agreed with you in the chat there.
Oh yeah. And then this section right here is all about positioning. If you're in the wrong spot, you will die incredibly quickly, especially on hard. But
Nice.
yeah. Then there's going to be two circles of the same planes that come in at you, and then for the second one you have to be offset or you'll die, which often trips people up the first time. They're like, "Oh, I just pulled down through the first one, so let's do it again." No.
I feel like this is another treasure reference to Grady. It's like the destroy the core thing.
Yeah. I keep thinking of Gradius 5 when I watch some of these bosses.
Yeah.
Actually, at the beginning of, or at some point towards the beginning of the next and final stage, you'll actually see the disappearing and reappearing enemies from Gradius. You know, from the boss rush. They actually have like that kind of like little thing going on. It's a little homage to that, I can tell.
Yeah. The Zubs, as they're called.
This part right here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, when they disappear.
Yeah, when you normally get powered up. I also forgot to mention during stage 2 that I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but the
This
he's
opening
actually,
segment.
Pardon? Did you cut it out again?
Yeah, I think I did.
No,
Am I back
no,
here?
you're good.
Oh, I was saying at the end of stage 2, I'm not sure if anybody noticed it, but that boss is the only one that actually have a unique theme to himself. I
Okay.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not
I'm guessing
counting
in
Gary.
Pardon?
Yeah.
To
and,
Gary? Yeah.
Yeah, not counting Tagari and the stone, like I was saying. So chaining on stage 5 is actually very straightforward. It's probably the easiest stage in the game to chain because it's so obvious what you're supposed to do, but it's difficult to execute. It's possible to get 118 on the normal version of the game. 122 if you're playing prototype mode is not unheard of, but it's very difficult to do. So yeah, here it looks like he's going to get 118. Very cool.
Nice.
And for
Strong
Tagari,
head.
you get
Oh,
you get a boss destroy bonus for each form of the boss. So the idea is to kill the first two as quickly as possible, and then get the last one down to 1 second remaining, while milking its shots for as long as you possibly can. I don't know whether he does that or not because I haven't watched the rest of this replay, but the last form of the boss starts shooting homing lasers at you, and those are worth over 1,000 points each if you absorb them, in addition to the tons of small bullets that he's firing at you throughout that. So you can get a massive amount of points.
This is the last
59
stage
seconds.
boss?
Yeah, this is the
59
final
seconds.
boss.
That's quite good.
Okay.
This section with the worms is really, really, really hard.
Yeah. You essentially have to snake them, basically.
Yeah, I think this is as far as I ever made it, ever, on 1 credit on easy mode, and then it just killed me right there. It was so sad.
Oof. Looks pretty precarious.
And the reason why he went behind him is just so he can actually control the bullet
Wow.
flow.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Wow.
Now, right here, you have to rock back and forth. Like, you have to actually move down slightly before you actually move up and go through.
Dang, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That looked crazy.
It's unreal how, like, I'm sure anybody that got to this part the first time was just like, really?
yeah.
It's like time to step up my shit again.
Yeah, this is
One of those
Energy
bucket
bags.
Something else.
moments. in video gaming.
Feels like a dubstep Energy Max remix right there.
If you die after a certain point in this fight, he'll stop doing that, and it becomes much easier to handle. So.
Oh, okay.
And if he wanted a better score, what he would have done is wait for the time to roll all the way down to 1 second remaining before firing off that last energy release, because it lets him absorb more shots from those homing lasers. And like I was saying earlier, each one of those shots from the boss is worth over 1,000 points. So multiply that by 16, and then multiply that by 2 times a second, and you get quite a few points. So. And now the stone like.
Damn, dude.
The one tie-in to the Radiant Silvergun game.
Exactly. So.
This look. Oh man, this part's insane. Like I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe the glow of the shots or something, but it just like looks like intimidating,
Yeah.
Well, there's also like a sense of death to the way the like snaky type laser lightning type shots look in this game, so it kind of throws you off visually as well. You know what I'm saying? Like you kind of have like a death thing going on with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
This boss is one of those very few cases in the game where it actually does get more difficult the longer you survive. More and more of those small bullets that home onto your position will start appearing during the first couple phases of the boss if you don't die. If you do die, they'll either not show up at all or they'll significantly decrease in number. So.
Oh
And
crap! Was
by the
that
way,
the last
here-
guy?
Yeah, that was the end. So
Oh.
here he missed out on a huge potential number of points because in a true like high level super play, they'd have a lot more lives remaining, and that would be factored into the end bonus because every life you have at the end is multiplied by 500k. So 31 million is still a very good score, but the world record is in the 40 million range because you can get like 9.5 million points just from remain bonuses and boss destruction bonuses for those last couple stages. So.
That's crazy how much execution you can put into it because the game gives you, that opportunity, but to optimize it is just seems quite difficult. Some of those sections were just like, it's just so in your face.
And actually, if you're actually just running through the game with no miss or whatnot, it actually only clocks into about like 20 minutes. So it's really not a long game. But the difficulty is, definitely there for, especially like starting from stage 3 and up, like the difficulty spikes.
I think it's a 22-minute game before the credits. So.
All right.
And then people in chat are commenting on the original version having slowdown, but the Xbox 360 port not having any. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like the original, is because Tagiri is fun in the original, and it's just really painful on the Xbox version.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I kind of looked like it should have had slowdown to give that epic feel, too.
Nixon-esque, what do you mean by the 4 ways to play Ikaruga? You mean the difficulties and then Dot Eater? Because we went over those at the beginning.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, I mean, it's an impressive replay. I'll give it that for sure. The presentation, I think, is one of the big things about the game too.
Oh yeah, I suppose we could mention prototype Nereid.
Yeah, what is that?
Prototype mode is an unlockable gameplay mode available in the Xbox 360 version and I believe the GameCube version as well. Probably going to be on the Steam version because they're basing the code for that off the Xbox version. Basically, it changes the game so that you can only gain energy for your ship by absorbing bullets, but you expend energy whenever you shoot, and you have a maximum energy of 999. 10 energy corresponds to 1 homing laser. So the difference is that you can rapid fire your homing lasers as many times as you want, provided you have energy left over for it. But if you run out of energy, your shots become point blank only. So you have to get up super close to enemies in order to kill them to absorb bullets in order to be able to shoot long range. So It's kind of difficult to explain without seeing it, but basically you only have any real power if you're absorbing bullets from enemies. And it's a different way of playing the game. It can be very challenging, especially on easy mode, ironically, because enemies don't shoot back at you. So easy mode becomes quite difficult on prototype mode because
Wow.
because there's no suicide bullets of any kind, so you have to point blank almost everything.
Interesting how they had that idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Play it differently.
I'm not sure what the name is a reference to. I've heard two different things. One is that the idea is that it's a prototype of your ship, so it can't, fire on its own. It needs to absorb the energy to shoot from enemies. And the other is that it's a prototype of what they actually intended the original arcade version to be. And they just tweaked some things around before they released the game in the end. So I don't know which one is true, and I'd love to hear about that if anyone watching knows.
Sure.
There are some subtle differences between the versions too, such as like missing content. Like for example, the GameCube and the Dreamcast version originally had like a scene where Shin was rocking to like the Ikaruga, where the difficulty mode selected. That was actually removed in the Xbox port.
Which is a shame in my opinion, because it did a great deal towards setting the mood of the game.
And it's the one time you actually do get to see the main character.
Yeah.
There was an art gallery I know in the GameCube version. I know there's an ability to do slow motion play as well.
Yeah, they had a very detailed practice mode in the GameCube port where you could it broke up the stages into individual subsections, and each of those sections would then have a moderately good replay, and then the ability to play through the stage in half speed so that you could practice your execution in slow-mo and then try and own it in real time before then going to practice the full level.
It said it would show you a correct replay.
It would show you like one way to get through it. Usually it was not the ideal way to do it. Usually they missed out on some potential points.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, but it was a really, really good practice mode. So.
Wow. Yeah, because
what was another mode? It was called like Conquest mode. I can't remember what that
that's what it was. That was Conquest. Practice was to practice individual stages. Conquest was to
the challenges,
quote unquote, conquer the challenge of each different subsection of the stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a short game. Went through it so quickly. But yeah, Ikaruga, pretty badass.
Yeah.
All right. I suppose we can go on to Radiant Silvergun then. Anything else to say about Ikaruga?
Not particularly.
Okay.
That we did briefly mention the differences between the different versions. To kind of recap on that, there's no slowdown in the Xbox port. There's translated like splash screen text, so you see, like I will not die until I achieve something, that kind of thing. In the GameCube version, those never showed up. In the Dreamcast version, those were in Japanese, and the Naomi version, those were in Japanese. So rather than translate them for the GameCube port, they apparently were just like, screw it, and remove them altogether. Then a lot of other subtle things have changed. So the direction of the Stage 3 mid-boss is reversed. The hitbox size of the giant enemies that shoot only white bullets towards the end of Stage 5, I believe they're called Shogunbo. They're actually significantly larger hitboxes in the Xbox 360 version. So in the GameCube and Dreamcast versions, you can get super close to them and sit inside of their sprite a little tiny bit and absorb a ton of bullets that way. So it can contribute to your score and to your play depending on how you handle it.
Sure.
And there's some other things like you can't quite move all the way to the edges in the 360 version, but it doesn't really factor into the play at all because you don't ever really have to do that. So, yeah.
Okay.
And and I was gonna mention like there's I thought it should be noted that this was the first time too that G-Rev collaborated with Treasure, because this engine was built by G-Rev in part with Treasure, and it was later used again like in Gradius 5. So I feel like that's something that should have been mentioned at some point.
Oh, they have the same engine. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Cool.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see the kind of similarity a little bit. Neato. Also, brief synopsis of like the story of Ikaruga. You guys want to tackle that before we move on to Radiant Silvergun?
Sure. So I'm trying to remember this here. So I think there's a nation called Horai, and the leader of it, Tenro Horai, discovered an object underground. I'm going to butcher this. Ubusunagami Okinokai, the power of the gods, the stone-like god. A bunch of different names for it. Basically, it's that that crystal prism thing that is the true last boss of Ikaruga, and shows up in Radiant Silvergun as well. And she was able to harness the power of this device somehow. I think the game story says she was psychic or something, and as a result, gained incredible powers, and her nation became massively powerful. Then fast forward a few years, and they've kind of conquered the world, and there's a resistance group called Tenkaku. The main character of Ikaruga, Shinra, was a pilot for this group, but they were all destroyed except for him, and he crash landed in a village called Ikaruga as his fighter took some damage. He spent some time with the village, and he talked with the people there and realized that he was fighting for the wrong reasons. He was fighting for kind of a personal vendetta against the against Horai, when really, he should be kind of embodying the hopes of people to go towards, freedom and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of kind of philosophical discussion that takes place at that time. Ultimately, they decide to entrust him with a secret weapon that they've developed, a ship named after the village, and it's the only ship in that whole world that is capable of changing between the two energy polarities. And that's kind of the backstory.
And Ikaruga is a spotted dove, or model dove. Sorry.
Yes. Japanese grosbeak, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Cool. That's pretty interesting.
And then the player 2 ship, the Genkei, actually has a separate side story where Shinra shoots down a Horai assassin sent to kill him before he has a chance to rise against them in the Ikaruga. He shoots her down and rescues her from her crashed ship, and then becomes friends with her, and she requests that her personal fighter be modified to the same spec as the Ikaruga, and then sets off with Shinra because she wants to see what he can do and what the freedom that he's seeking is. So then at the end of the game, throughout the whole game, there's a lot of allusions to some kinds of Buddhist ideas, including resurrection. The title of the final chapter is metempsychosis. Yeah, which is I believe it's a term that's used to describe the transference of a soul from one body to another. Could be wrong about that, though.
No, you're right, because that's kind of like why it shows it's open interpretation really at the end, because you see the spotted doves or whatnot flying off into the distance. I feel like he's being reincarnated into that just because the whole theme of the whole spotted dove and Ikaruga and whatnot, so on and so forth. Makes sense. That's what I'm saying. It's a lot of metaphysical stuff.
It's interesting, because there are, shooting games that have come out throughout the years that occasionally try to have, a really meaningful story. And it seems like this one really tried to kind of have something, an encompassing world and story, which contribute to the game. It's really awesome. It seems like, it's just one of those games where if you really, you're really getting into it, just playing it all night, you read that story, you go back to the game, you really get immersed into it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The one kind of problem with it is that it's entirely separated from the game. You really have to read up on it to know that it exists at all.
That's the case a lot of times too. You got to do your research.
Yeah, definitely. Who the hell knows what the Donpachi story is unless they read about it online. But there it is. It is pretty cool too. So
yeah, a lot of times people are like,
I'm pretty sure Treasure's a little confused about it too, because one of the biggest complaints about Ikaruga is, man, the story's awesome. It should be more prevalent. You know what I'm saying? And then Gradius 5 comes down. They try to have a little bit more story to it, and then people are like, no, get that shit out of here.
Oh yeah, the one cutscene in the Gradius 5.
Yeah, so I just think it's funny. Yeah. I bet they're like, what do we do?
Right. I think it's best left kind of in the instruction manual for the most part. or a story mode or something.
Yeah, which actually, our next game, Radiant Silvergun, I think does a great job at presenting it without having to kind of stop the action so much.
Yeah, and part of that is that it's very cinematic in a lot of ways. The mood is really set by how they kind of pan the way that they pace the music to the action going on in the game. And Ikaruga has some of that as well, but it's a little bit harder to notice because everything is so minimalist, whereas Radiant Silvergun is very much the opposite. It's in many ways it's kind of an example of a maximalist kind of a shooting game. So
Yeah, it's very reminiscent to like R-Type Delta or like Iron Hander with the whole more cinematic approach to the shooting game.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
very
Like,
much so.
All right, so yeah, we'll be moving on to Radiant Silvergun then. It was originally released in 1998, also in arcades, then released on the Sega Saturn shortly after, and then we waited for quite a while, and finally an HD release came out on Xbox Live. To the people's happiness, because the game was very expensive until that point to actually play it. It gained, it kind of became an expensive, a rare to get game. Prices were like something like $100 to like $160 or something for a copy. I'm just kind of rough estimate there, but it came out, and so yeah, Radiant Silvergun. How do you guys want to start this one?
well, I guess I could fill it out with a little bit of how the mechanics work.
Sure.
Well, first off, it has three different buttons to the game. I'll just go ahead and say A, B, and C. Well,
Sure.
A fires your standard, like for firing like a machine gun type projectile. Your B, if you hold that down, it does like a homing projectile type thing. It basically lets you hit around corners or things behind you, stuff like that. And then you have C, which is two lasers that shoot at an odd angle. It's like two blue shots. Now that one's not as versatile, but it's also your strongest weapon of the bunch.
Right.
Now the targeting system is when you hold A and B together, you actually get a grand total of 6 different types of shots, not including your radiant sword. And with the A and B buttons, you actually get a targeting system where it just brings up a bunch of reticules that surround you, and it's more used as I personally use it more like a defensive thing, where if any enemies are close to your vicinity, it'll launch out like these attacks at them.
Okay.
And then you have A and C shot, which basically shoots straight behind you, but it's very reminiscent of the A shot, which is the machine gun. It just shoots behind you. And if you do B and C, it actually shoots like these two targeting reticules, and they kind of operate sort of like tasers, and they just take stick and lock onto the enemy as you go.
In front of you?
Yeah, in front of you specifically.
Okay. And that's okay. Those are all the buttons. Okay, cool. And then what about the sword?
A radiant sword is performed by pressing all 3 buttons at the same time. And then basically the sword's blade actually goes into the direction opposite of the direction you're flying in. So there's a little bit of element of skill and control that comes with it.
Nice.
Now, the interesting thing is on the 360 release, though, they actually allocated the buttons to like the shoulders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everything all right?
No. Someone's suggesting playing it with Kinect.
Oh God. Oh God, that'd be very difficult. Oh man, but yeah,
let's not think about that much.
But yeah, like I was saying, the 360 release, you can actually have all your buttons, all the weapons mapped out to each of the buttons. So there's less of the whole, figuring out, which combination of buttons I got to hold down to use a weapon.
But then you just got a shitload of buttons, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely more intuitive.
My personal opinion is that with just 3 buttons, it's actually incredibly intuitive. But the problem is that the 3 buttons have to be in an arcade layout, like on an arcade stick, because otherwise, like it's really hard to hold down 3 different buttons on a controller and have it work in a way that makes any kind of sense at all.
You have to play it.
Whereas on an arcade
style.
stick, it's just pointer, middle, ring, bam, 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 and then suddenly you're like, oh, I can just chord these 2 fingers to do this shot, and these 2 fingers to do a different shot, and yeah. So I mean that's my personal take on it. And yeah, maybe I would map a fourth button for ABC if I felt like doing a sword only run or something. But
So how do you manage it on pad, Tokyo?
With the sword, it's actually done with like the bumper. Or no, was it the right bumper or the right trigger? Shit, it's been a while. It's one of the triggers. Basically the sword's mapped on there, so that's what I do. I don't press all three buttons at the same time at all.
Right.
But one thing that's worth mentioning is that the Radiant Sword, you can actually remove bullets off the screen, mainly like pink ones. Obviously, you can't destroy lasers and stuff like that, but smaller shots, you can absorb those shots similar to how you can in Ikaruga with the sword. And as you swipe the shots, it builds up a gauge that lets you use a sword attack that basically brings it from behind and circles all the way to the front, like in a chopping motion. And it gives you full invincibility during that time, so you kind of can use it for very strategic moments where you want to just like skip through parts of the environment and go straight ahead.
And in contrast to Ikaruga, that does serve essentially as a bomb. So whereas in Ikaruga, you don't really have any kind of last resort weapon, in Radiant Silvergun, you very much do, provided that you have charge built up for the Radiant Sword.
Cool.
It can be devastatingly powerful if used at the right time. It can deal significant damage to most of the bosses, including one-hit killing some of the first few. So
you have the technology. It's just a matter of using it correctly in this game.
Yeah,
and I think
definitely.
And that's the biggest gimmick with this game too. Just like Ikaruga, there are no power-ups whatsoever. It's like the weapons you get are all you get. But unlike that game, this one actually has RPG type elements. This is kind of like one of the biggest polarizing elements of the game, and why I even feel like Radiant Silvergun really takes it to the next level of a game that you have to like memorize and play and understand every nuance of it to actually really enjoy the game. Unlike Ikaruga, it's not a puzzle game, but like I was saying, pardon?
I mean, I think that you could argue that kind of the way to chain in Radiant Silvergun is even sillier than the way to chain in Ikaruga, because
absolutely,
if you chain three enemies, three red enemies, and then try to do three yellow ones, your chain on the reds is reset. So if you really want to get a good score in Radiant Silvergun, you have to only chain one color throughout the entire stage, and for 90% of the game, that one color is red. So in a lot of ways, I think that it's a much more boring puzzle game than Ikaruga is. But I think I know where you're going with this, which is that you have to understand the way that the game system works to really be able to push it, because you have to score well to level up your weaponry, as Nereid said in the chat. And until you have leveled up weapons, it can be very difficult to survive.
You gotta score well to get the weapons. Gotcha.
And so there's this dynamic where unless you're scoring well, you're not going to be good at surviving. But until you know how to score well, you can't survive either.
Or at least score well enough, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to be, a super player to make it through, or
which
at least
is
make it far.
Yeah, which is what the replay is that we're watching is like. Nereid has said it's pretty much a bare 1cc. Not really taking advantage fully of scoring, so it should be a good demonstration of just getting the bare essential level ups.
Because if you actually are trying to go for scoring, it's mainly milking bosses. You want to dismantle bosses by every part of their every portion of them, because they actually net you bigger score increase, and I guess you could say in a sense XP, since score is directly tied to your weapon powers. So okay. I guess we should mention that the enemies, they're classified in three colors: red, blue, and yellow.
Right.
And if you manage to kill, as we mentioned earlier, manage to kill the three same color, you get a scoring bonus. And you can mix and match weapons as long as it's as long as it doesn't change the color. So it is intentional in the game where you actually just end up not destroying certain colors. You just dodge the rest, shoot what you need.
Right. Okay. So in general, you're avoiding not the blue and yellow.
I'd say probably 2/3 of the enemies in the game you're probably avoiding.
I see.
Just some other things to mention here that have been touched on briefly in chat. There is a range mode of the game, which is I think on the 360 version only, where you can essentially play it like Ikaruga. You can chain 3 enemies of one color and then chain 3 enemies of a different color, and it'll keep building up your chain. That's not the standard arcade mode, but it is available as an option. Yeah, there you go, Xbox Live only.
Yeah, Ikaruga mode or whatever.
And I think that it decreases the maximum value that each chain can bring you as a consequence of that. But I haven't played it, so I may be wrong about that.
Actually, the game is readjusted for it.
Oh, okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And then there's also a secret bonus chain, which is I think red, blue, and then yellow. And that will instantly bump up your chain value a very significant amount. And then if you continue with the yellow chains, can provide a very significant score pathway to build up the chain value very quickly. Yeah, red, blue, yellow, then all yellow after that. So.
Okay. All right.
Jamers is complaining about no super play. All right.
Well, see, like I think Tokyo, you're telling me like a scoring run of this game is like an hour and 10 minutes or something.
Actually, the story mode for this game runs at about like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. It might be a little longer than that, give or take. But basically, the arcade
there's a lot of
mode,
milking.
Yeah, you're going to be milking a lot. You would have to, because you actually have to play through every stage. In arcade mode, it's actually different because it's actually more straightforward. There's no story elements, and you actually have to pick between stage 2 or 4, and then you proceed through the rest of the game from there on out, all the way up until stage 6.
Even more stuff that we forgot to mention. Thank you, chat. There's bonus points you can get for leveling up weapons or using them on bosses, or holding a certain lock onto a certain enemy for long enough. So, for example, the A and B weapon, if you hold it on a target for, I think, 10 seconds or something like that, or 30 seconds or something, you get 10K.
Okay.
And that has to do with the weapon leveling system. Then there's also dogs hidden in the stages at various points. And you can find those with the BC homing shot. There are very specific locations. Sometimes, yes, dogs.
Like puppies.
They're at specific locations, both in space, like with regard to where the levels are laid out, and in time. Sometimes you have to wait for a specific event to happen for them to appear, or they only show up.
Time.
Yeah, space-time dogs.
Okay.
And if you pick them up, you get a Mary bonus, which is very significant. I don't remember how many total, sadly. Someone in chat probably knows. But if you pick up all of them, it very significantly boosts your score. Each one is worth a lot, but altogether they're worth a huge amount. So.
Radiant Doggone. All right.
And then, as mentioned, boss milking is a huge part of the game, and the way that you do that is also, there's like 29 or 30, I think.
Really?
Then the way
there's
that
like
you
20
do
or
that,
so.
The way that you do that is is very significant. If you use the right weapons to milk the bosses, for example, you can be getting weapon bonuses while you're destroying boss parts, which will also give you a destruction bonus for the boss. So it's a very kind of a multi-layered thing, but like we probably won't see much of that according to Nereid. So
okay, yeah, sure. Well, let's get into the replay before this episode gets too very long, and you guys can go over some of the mechanics and stuff if you need to as we go into the replay.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
Let's get this thing started. All right, 3, 2, 1, click. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, click. And yeah, this is by Nereid, the player. He's actually in the chat, so say what's up to him. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, man. Amazing run.
All right.
So that secret bonus early there lets him get high chain values right off the bat, already up to 40k. So that's quite impressive. The other way to do this stage is just to chain the red enemies, but I can't remember if that gets you more or less points. I think it ends up being less.
Guys, I'll be right back in like 2 minutes. Hold it down, please.
Absolutely.
Oh, all right.
It's also worth noting too that the Saturn mode actually has like 5 or so extra bosses that aren't in the arcade version. They're like kind of exclusive boss fights. I think I know for a fact that one of them shows up in what was it, stage 5. But I can't remember. I can't remember what other levels actually had an exclusive boss. I think it might have been like stage 4, but I know for a fact stage 5 had it. If anybody in chat remembers that, then do let me know.
Stage 2, just red, lots of red, lots of uses of the C shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'll see the Vulcan cannon being used a lot, and you usually tend to use the spread a lot over time.
Yeah. When you first play the game, it's like, what the hell is the point of this stupid side shot? But then you realize it's actually quite useful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely
nice,
needed
taking
for
out
damage.
those two before they even have a chance to start filling the screen with bullets. And yes, stage numbering is very confusing. Would you mind touching on that, Tokyo? Because I actually don't even know how it works. I just know it kind of goes in reverse.
Yes. Basically, the game starts off on stage 3, which is essentially the prologue to the game when the Silverguns are basically going back down to the surface of Earth to destroy the Stone Light, and that's where the story basically starts because they've been out in the atmosphere somewhere in space, for almost a year, and they're running low on supplies, so they go back to Earth for it. And yeah, this is where the game starts, and it starts off on stage 3. And from there on out, it gives you after you beat the first boss, it gives you the option of going to either stage 2 or 4. Stage 4 is it continues on from stage 3. It's just like a seamless level transition. Stage 2 is actually a reminiscent level, like it's a flashback level of basically when all the chaos is going down, the Stone Light first awakens. And so it kind of plays out in that order.
All right, then.
And I don't
going
know.
for these weapon bonuses here, Nereid. Very nice.
Yeah, I see that over here. Gotta dismantle those bosses, man. You need every bit of point you can. I think that's one of the most crucial things about this game. It's just if you don't go ahead and take the time to milk bosses early on, you're really gonna regret that at some point later, sooner or later.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it, Radis, is that they're in chronological order, as opposed to what we're kind of used to in shmups. So, very cool.
All right, I'm back. Report.
Oh yeah. Hey, we were just discussing basically the sequence of events that the story mode takes place and how the stages are actually sequenced.
Okay.
Like right
cool.
now, what we're looking at is just stage 3. Actually, which is technically stage 1 of the game, but yeah,
It's a chronology. Yeah, the
not
story.
chronologically. Yeah.
Little sword pokes. This is fucking great. Oh, so you don't go for the full chain here, Nereid. All right, cool.
Yeah, somebody actually just mentioned the soundtrack. Yeah, it's actually done by Hitoshi Sakimoto, who he also did Final Fantasy Tactics and Gradius 5 soundtrack.
Yep.
So it's pretty noticeable. Like, this guy's really good.
He's done a lot of stuff.
Oh, thanks for that, Nereid. Yeah, extends at 1 in 5 million.
So how do you
think
uncover
there's-
the dogs again?
With the BC homing shot.
Oh, okay.
Right there. Yeah, what he just
And
did right
I
there.
Pretty funny.
They give a pretty significant point bonus, and then I think each one you get increases the bonus you get for the next one. But again, I could be wrong about that. Definitely not my strong suit in this game, scoring.
This game's also very notorious for its English as well, like Beatitudes for Games. That's kind of a
Yes.
well-known saying. It's from this game.
Yeah.
Each dog is worth a specific amount. There we go. This boss, Gallop, is a reference to R-Type. Many of the weapons that it uses are reminiscent of that. You have homing missiles, reflecting lasers, trace lasers, and even a wave cannon. And the name is a reference to Armed Police Gallop, I think.
Okay.
Which is by
never
REM.
Oh man, that does look like the Force. What? I've never
Yep.
seen that before.
Yeah. It's not my deduction. I read that somewhere. I don't remember where, but
That makes so
and
much
yes,
sense.
that is a very difficult boss. The first few times you play it, it will absolutely destroy you. So
This guy makes this game look really easy. Like even this first level's really, really tough. Like if you don't know what you're doing.
oh, nice, just for score on this section, just getting all those nice yellow secret chains. Very cool. Then there's another dog in the center of this boss arena. I don't
It
know
barks.
if it's gonna go for it. Yeah, there you go. Dog.
It's so funny.
Yeah, this is very different from Ikaruga, especially not only in pacing, but just the fact that it's a lot more flexible in terms of play style.
Absolutely.
Compared to Ikaruga.
This boss is it's very interesting. There's kind of two ways to do it. You can be very aggressive and kill its parts very rapidly, or kind of play very defensively and milk it for a bit, and then once it starts spinning around like this, just hide behind the background elements. But if you're quick about it, you can actually move back and forth during this section here rapidly enough, like Nereid's doing right now. Rapidly enough that you can kind of trick it and prevent it from ever really reaching you. So.
Oh yeah, he is manipulating the AI there. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I learned a new trick right there. That'll make that part easier.
Yeah, the food for dogs. They must have had a dog in the office or something. You know? It just seems so out of place.
Then again, this
Okay,
is consisting of a
red
lot of the. Hold on for a sec. Oh, there it goes. Never mind. See, I froze for a second. I was just like, what?
Yeah, so you can see the weapons leveling up down there. I see.
And this is the boss where you get to choose your stage order once you beat it here.
You can quickly defeat this boss, but like once again, can't stress it enough. You have to go ahead and dismantle all the bosses you possibly can, especially the easier ones.
Because of the really good experience bonus.
Well, it's not not only is it for the points, but you also really want to level up your weapons as fast as
Yeah,
possible.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This boss,
Gotcha.
for the most part, is quite easy. There are a few attacks that can really take you off guard. These big pylons, like the one that's coming in on the left here, shoot out lasers one row at a time. But Nereid takes them out really quickly.
You just
unless
hovered
they're
over him.
Yeah, I don't really have time to get annoying with it, but
So he's using the sword invincibility there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the that's that radiant sword, right?
yep.
Or,
Yeah, basically the game's equivalent to the bomb.
Right.
Lots of uses of the Radiant Sword on this boss, which actually are making very short work of it. So very cool. The little catapult-looking things shoot out bullets, which create like a little black hole type thing that kind of sucks you in and holds you in place. It can be very difficult to deal with if you get stuck in one of those. So.
Aesthetically, too, this game is definitely a lot more colorful than Ikaruga in comparison,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. And the stone light once again.
That stage looks cool.
Yeah, now this is the flashback level. This is actually right before the stone light basically sends that white flash that wipes out everybody off Earth. Yeah, basically everybody dies after the stone light, just releases this white light. So, yeah, This game too, I'm pretty sure we mentioned it earlier, didn't we, about how many mini bosses they tend to have in this game? Like, it's basically a lot of boss rushes.
I see.
Yeah. Because Ikaruga only had like the main stage bosses, whereas this one you'll fight like several different things.
Right.
Yeah, and each stage kind of has sub-stages, and it gets a little confusing. But some levels are almost entirely boss fight, for example.
Yeah. I think that was stage 5 actually is the one I think you might be talking about, where it's just basically you taking out a giant warship.
Oh, it's a puke attack.
I'm not sure.
He's puking.
Yeah. Yep. It's radioactive green too, is the best part.
Did you guys talk about the story at all? Maybe, I don't know if you guys want to mention that, like who the enemy is, something like that.
Basically, the Earth has a defense force that unearths the stone, like basically this relic, and they also unearthed a creator robot, the same one that's actually on the Silvergun ship.
Okay.
But except it's all destroyed and whatnot, so they're all like, oh well, what's going on here? Well, they start researching it and find out like the stone like actually has the possibility of just having infinite power, and they try to harness it. Well, turns out they basically unearthed God. And God basically got pissed off and destroyed everything on Earth. And all this happened while basically what you're seeing right now is leading up to the events of him basically killing everybody on Earth. This stage is. And the level that we saw previously was actually the Silvergun and the Tetra ships returned to Earth in order to get resources, like a year later.
Interesting. Okay, wow.
Wow,
And
with
basically
a
that's
sword
pretty
in
much
there.
it.
That's pretty cool.
That's like a toothpick.
Yeah, that was pretty intense there.
It's like
Nicely
picking
done.
it's like picking the teeth.
All the bosses that we're looking at too are basically defense mechanisms that the stone likes manipulating that humans built.
Oh yeah, of course, right.
Yeah.
By the way, something worth mentioning: as the weapons level up, their behavior will change. Like that search laser, the A and B one with the blue electric shot that's being used throughout this boss fight. Initially, when you get it, it only has like a 15-degree arc that it'll cover, but now it's going across almost the whole screen because it's been leveled up so much. So that's very useful to know, because some weapons will only behave a certain way once they get to a certain power level, and it can be very helpful once that happens. So like now the main shot is so much bigger, for example, that kind of thing.
And it's interesting too, this game isn't quite a bullet hell because of the pacing of it so deliberate. But it's also it's definitely not easy, I'll say that. It sits in a line between a bullet hell and a traditional shmup.
Yeah, there's definitely segments that feel very manic, but it never really gets overwhelming until the very end.
This is actually pretty incredible. I'm looking at the graphics right now, and I just can't believe a lot of this is actually sprite work, not 3D models,
Is it?
Yeah, it's actually sprite work.
Huh.
It's not real 3D because the Saturn actually couldn't handle like straight 3D models compared to the PlayStation. Actually, that's why the Saturn was superior in a lot of 2D games.
Oh.
Yeah, I was actually responding to Nereid in the chat. It does use 3D elements though. It's just not as much as you would think though.
The main character ship and some of the enemies definitely look like sprites, but most of the bosses and background elements, and environmental elements in the foreground look like they're 3D. Interesting. Lots of little sword pokes. I love that.
Oh wow.
The sword definitely takes a lot of mastery to use just because, as I mentioned earlier, you have to, it does go in the opposite direction of where you're flying, so you kind of have to have a good sense of control over it.
That's interesting, Lily Lovely, that Sony would do that. Very cool.
Then again, it's not the first time. Sony's done that a lot of times. Like, you know, ports like Mega Man 8 were superior on the Saturn and stuff like that, not only in content but performance, so it makes sense. Sony turned down a lot of stuff mainly because they were trying to push more their technology more so.
Oh no. So Nereid, not much boss milking here, you know, not like all of the bosses that have been in the game so far.
That's why I get through it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the original arcade hardware was STG. To answer the question in the chat.
So I suppose if you're like doing extra milking and stuff, your weapons would get stronger and increase your chance of beating the game. Would that be true?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was joking around. You can definitely milk them a lot more, but yeah, you definitely did a good job of getting the perfect bonuses as quickly as possible. So.
Because the thing is, like, if you actually do see like a story mode run where it's almost like imperative that you like try to score as much as you can, it does tend to like drag on quite a long time. Like the milking gets pretty ridiculous at points. Like, you know, you be sitting on a boss for like 10 minutes.
Man.
Wow, that was cool.
So does keeping the chain level up your weapons faster as well?
It increases your score more rapidly, so yeah.
Yeah, because
and
everything.
I think it depends on, like, what points you get with what weapon. I think is how it works, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they are dictated on what you're using. Like it's not like a universal thing. Like if you're wondering, I think the universal factor comes in only during boss battles. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But yeah, I think that's how it works though. Yeah, okay, so yeah, Kevin DDR answered it. Weapon leveling is solely based on how many points you earn with each weapon. Alright, cool.
Okay. Oh shit, we're playing Warning Forever.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because the game suddenly goes into 2D, almost vector looking graphics.
Yeah, wireframe. Yeah. It almost reminds me of the CPS or the CX2 chip or whatnot in the Super Nintendo games, like Mega Man X2 when they did the wireframe stuff. It reminds me of that actually quite a bit every time I got into this boss.
I think there was a boss like that in Ray Forest as well. Just kind of turns into a wireframe.
Yeah. Alright.
Oh.
Now this is actually the level I was talking about that actually had like some exclusive boss battles. Like the ones that, because Saturn version had like 5 or so extra ones. I know they start showing up on this one, but we won't see it because this is arcade playthrough, unfortunately.
Okay.
well, unfortunately is not necessarily the right word, but yeah. There's more content here.
Yeah. A lot of content. Man.
Wow, keeping up the chain through this fight, that's pretty nice.
It's a cool little section. Ikaruga-esque. For sure.
It's very strange how this game, like on Ikaruga mode, it actually feels like the game was built around it, like at some points.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's always hard to say, you know, how these games develop, you know, originally and what they end up becoming.
Yeah.
You know, you have to wonder, you know, what exactly happened when you see similarities like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This part in the jaws is incredibly annoying.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of like Stage 4 in Ikaruga too.
What a bunch of jerks. Look at them being jerks.
Yeah, Nereid, I've seen a couple super plays where they keep the red chain up, and it's ridiculous the amount of score you can get from just this stage, but it looks like it would just be so hard to do. I mean, my own experience of this level is just that it's so challenging just to survive through it. So
Does the chain bonus max out?
I think it maxes out at 100k per chain. I could be wrong about that though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it goes by the color basis, not so much like how long you're going with it.
Okay. Okay, right. Just really focusing on the center part here.
Yeah, he said, yeah, 100k.
Boom. Blue. Oh, perfect everything there.
And Stone Like.
And usually there's a boss battle right after this on the Saturn version, like several more.
Alright, last fight.
Yeah, this is
refuge.
Ziga.
Ziga?
Yeah,
Ziga.
Ziga. Now, this boss is not a joke. Like, as easy as it looks, like, I don't know, for some reason, the hitboxes, man, they are serious. It's not so much the attacks
Be
as
praying.
it is, like, the
Be
hitbox
praying.
on things.
Be praying.
Be praying. Oh shit. Is he running after you or are you behind him? Oh wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
a lot
pretty
of
cool.
tricks.
Holy crap. This is intense. It's
And all that
Ultraman.
is an active hitbox. That's the worst part about it. Like, it's pretty tricky.
Yeah, this guy's funny. He's like doing some Shoiniki type stuff here. Like going upside down and doing some,
He's even got the Menzu Beam!
yeah, the Menzu beam.
Yeah, those white lasers, man.
Yeah, I stayed tuned for that episode. I was just like, what am I watching, man?
Yeah, it was a crapshoot, but it was good.
No, it was entertaining, dude. I was just like, oh my god, how many times? I think you guys had Trap on that episode as well,
Yeah,
which is pretty funny.
it was the stupidest
see?
episode yet.
And right there, he just barely nicked
Flash
his leg
kick.
in there.
Oof. Yeah.
Wow, this boss. He's doing the Choiniki again. God damn it.
Wow, this gets intense.
Dang.
Yeah. This isn't the final segment though. Yeah, this part's pretty tricky. It's really like the prologue area of stage 5 in Ikaruga, where like the stuff just kind of randomly appears and you have to like dodge it. It's kind of reminding me of that. Actually, the final form where you can't actually hurt the boss or shoot or anything, it reminds me of that part where you have to go through the spiral columns as well as the little arrow shooting at you. It's really reminiscent of that part.
Well, I think that part in Ikaruga was something of a reference to the final boss here.
Yeah.
In a lot of, since it is the same thing. I mean, it's the stone-like in both cases. So.
Yeah, this gets faster and faster.
Yeah, that looks annoying.
Yeah, you just eventually have to hang out at the bottom of the screen. I don't know why they sit so close in most runs.
Gwa!
Stone-like?
Now he is a stone. Or something.
Oh, if you have lower weapon levels, you have to play the later patterns, which are apparently more difficult. I did not know that.
Huh. That is interesting. I did not know that actually
Cool.
affects like whether you
Do you know what the cutoff is, Kevin?
Kevin caught on to a lot of some little nuances of this game that I never saw before.
Just this is the last thing you do?
Yeah, this is actually the first level canonically.
Canonically, yeah.
What's he gonna do when the timer runs out? Explode?
No, actually, I don't know, man. I don't know. Plot twists. You'll find out in 30 seconds.
Alright.
This is a cool last attack.
No music. Serious. No dogs either.
Man.
But how
funny
can
if
you be sure?
It'd be funny if the dog was the final boss.
Fucking space-time dog.
Just fucking comes out like this.
The center of the explosion.
What the? And it just ends. Nice cutoff.
Just to give you an idea what happens in the story right there, basically the stone light warps you back all the way back to the beginning of time. And that's how the creator robot at the very beginning gets dug up. That's where he came from. So the creator robot ends up basically taking strands of your hair. You find this out during the story mode if you actually play Saturn mode. And he takes strands of your hair from each of the crew members. And basically he starts humanity all over again with your DNA, like the two pilots' DNA.
Jeez.
So it has like that Evangelion thing. You're basically the beginning of the human race and the end of it.
Man. They always have to go with the whole like everything explanation. Oh well.
That's Japanese storytelling for you.
Yes. All right, well, cool. Radiant Silvergun. Got a good idea how that one goes. That's cool. Man, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, nice run, Nereid. Thanks for
Yeah, that was really
volunteering that for the show.
Yeah,
it was very
I
fun to
just
watch.
told him I was using it.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, never mind. But thank you regardless.
What the hell? Some guy's mowing his lawn and it's raining outside. Anyway.
Thank you, Aquas.
Wait, now he's just driving in the street with a tractor. All right. Anyway, so yeah, STG Weekly 37, Ikaruga Radiant Silvergun. Ikaruga is I don't know if it's not on Steam right now, is it? But
No, it's being greenlighted.
It's being
Okay,
greenlit,
it's
but
being-
it already has like 150 pages of comments from people who've supported it. So my suspicion is that it'll probably go through.
probably make it. So yeah, yeah. If you got Steam, check out, or definitely vote that up. If you want to get this game again or whatever, definitely support that, and maybe the start of some more shmups coming out on Steam, because I know there's been a lot of speculation of shmups kind of, it'd be like Steam would be a good platform for them to come. And I think some of these developers are starting to see that a little bit here and there. But yeah, so kind of nice timing for this episode to have like have like something relevant like that happening. It's always kind of cool when these games get re-released, and there's the chance of kind of a little bit of burst of popularity in shooting games and whatnot. So
Yeah,
And also to
definitely.
give-
And Cave on Steam would be absolutely fantastic, but let's not hold our breath there. So
Well, I also want to just mention too, like, Treasure's been out of the game for a while. Like, I feel like they really are talented and deserve a little bit more than they're treated. So I definitely feel like, with the start of the support of Ikaruga on Steam, there's a good chance of more Treasure games even coming out, or them getting a new start of making new games and stuff and releasing them on Steam. So
I think Gradius 5 on Steam would be badass.
that would be
Yeah.
sweet. It would also be great to see what they would come up with for RS3. If they ever came up with that, since Ikaruga was Project RS2, and the idea of a spiritual successor to both of these games could be quite interesting. So
Ikaruga,
regardless of what
Radiant
you think
Successor.
of them, I think we can all agree that it would be interesting to see what they came up with. So
Right. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks guys for coming on the episode. Was
yeah,
fun.
thank you very much for
Thank
having
you
me.
for-
As again, I always like being on here. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Yeah, it was a fun one, and I think we should wrap it up though. It was got to be a pretty long episode, but I think we got a good idea of how kind of these games go. Get people excited to try out these ones. Next week, going to be Ibarra, and Softdrink. You're going to be back on that one, talking about that.
You know it, man. Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
So hopefully I won't be cutting out, because that would be kind of a problem given how much there is to talk about in that game. But
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you stayed with us most of the time here.
yeah, most of the time. So, but
And
yeah,
of course,
yeah.
props to Soda for doing the stream today.
Thank you.
Our
No
wonderful
problem.
HD
Thank you, Soda.
stream. So